Lab 3.2, volume and mass. In this lab, we're going to look at these 3 rods and the 2 short cylinders, and we're going to see if we can find any relationship between volume and mass. First thing we need to do is organize and keep our rods straight so that when we measure the mass of one, we can make sure that we're also comparing that to the volume of the same rod. We're going to mass each rod on the balance. We're going to find that each one of them seems to have a mass of about 2.7. We have a data sheet and a bit that we're recording this on. We're also going to use displacement to find the volume, filling it up to 7 cubic centimeters. And then we slide the rod in. And the volume raises to 8. So we've got a volume now of 1 cubic centimeter, and the mass of that first rod was 2.54. We're going to continue doing this to each of the 3 long rods and the 2 short rods, finding the mass and volume of each one of them. One of the questions on the lab sheet asks you how you could find the mass and volume if those long rods were twice as long. And it would make sense that if you just multiplied the volume by 2 and got 2 cubic centimeters, that the mass would also be twice as much. And then it asks us, if we had a rod that was twice as long, how would we mathematically calculate the volume and the mass? And the answer would be to divide them in half. So again, we're just continuing to mass and volume find the mass and the volume of each of the rods and record the data. In just a second, we're going to get to the data sheet. If it seems to move too fast, you might want to just pause the lab. The last question asks you if there seems to be any relationship between the silver rods, and the answer is yes. And then they ask you if you could make an object the same size and shape out of both the brass and the silver one, and have them. And the answer is no, because as you noticed, the mass of the short brass rod is 8.49, even though it has the same volume as the silver. So no matter what would happen, if you had the same size and shape, the brass is always going to have more mass than the silver one is. You could make it smaller with the same mass, but they would never be equal.